fulfillment of everything.
But either way, they all came after David. The Quran is just in error.
Bob, so you're a Christian, right?
Yes.
I've got two questions really for you. One,
is it about this?
Yeah, it's about this.
Okay, fair enough.
One, if you're a Christian, why do you not come here and preach your religion to everyone and let them know about your religion?
Let me answer that question first then.
Go on.
So firstly, I do often, and I've just had it on camera over an hour's worth of conversation about Christianity. So that's the first thing, you're corrected. Secondly, I find it strange that people come up to Christians and say, why are you attacking Islam? Shouldn't you preach Christianity? But he's never appeared on a single video going up to Shamsi, Hashim or Mansour and saying to them, why don't you preach Islam and not attack Christianity?
Who's attacking
there is
Christianity?
A double standard.
Who's attacking Christianity?
Mansour, Hashim and
Where
Shamsi.
are they? I'll go and speak to them now.
Yeah, go and speak to them.
I'll go and speak to them
I guarantee Hashim will be doing it right now. What was your second question?
You come and show me who they are, and I'll say the same thing to them.
What was your second question?
Why do you feel the need to get at other people's religion?
Okay, so why do I tackle other people's religions? Simple. Because as Christians, we are instructed by the apostles to demolish every thought that sets itself up against... I'm answering your question, be patient. Sets itself up in opposition to the gospel. We are instructed as Christians to use polemics and apologetics as part of evangelism. Also, many Muslims in the first instance are not willing to entertain the claims of the Christian faith until you have demonstrated the falsity of Islam first. And finally, the Muslims in the corner attack the Christian faith. Put your hand up if you've heard a Muslim as spending their time attacking the Christian faith. It's not just me telling you, all of these people are telling you, and Banks is an atheist, so no one's lying
I just
to you.
ain't been walking around. Maybe I missed the conversation.
Maybe you're selective in what you hear. So, the point of the matter is, if Muslims can attack Christianity, why can Christians not attack Islam?
I'm not saying that you can't.
Thank you.
I'm not saying that you can't, but I'm just saying, don't you think if you wanted to convert people to your religion, surely the best way about it would be to come down here and, spread some love rather than spreading hate? Because that's
why is it hate?
Because when you insult people,
why am I insulting by criticism?
Well, if you say something about, listen, I'm no religion, so you can't offend me by anything you say.
That's fine.
But if you start talking about someone's so-called prophet,
you mean like the Dawah team?
Then they're going to be offended by that.
You mean like the Dawah team?
That's hate.
Are the Dawah team guilty of hate speech?
I'll go over there now and I'll speak to them.
Go ahead.
If they're
I want to see it on
preaching,
camera.
if they've got the Bible in their hand and they're saying this and this and this, then I'll go over there and I'll say to them, why are you not preaching your religion?
Yeah, go and
I've
speak
never
to
seen them. I only come down here and I've only seen extremist Christians. I haven't seen any extremist Muslims yet.
So I think you're selective in what you're seeing. Because all of these people, including an atheist, have all contradicted you. Yeah? Another atheist. Sorry. All of these people. Let's just do it again, because maybe he's not convinced. If you have seen Muslims attacking the Christian faith, raise your hand. Raise your hand, Raoul.
Just ask him about the Trinity.
Raise your hand. Right? Brother, everyone is contradicting you. The narrative that you are presenting here...
I just said I'd never heard it for myself, so I'm not saying you're lying. Right? I never said you were lying.
No, hold on 1 second. I
said I never heard it
I want to tackle another fallacy that you've just laid at my door.
Go on.
We've blown apart his first fallacy, that Christians are attacking Islam, but Muslims are not attacking Christianity. Let's dismiss your second fallacy.
Go on.
Why is a criticism of a book, do you know the legal definition of hate speech?
No, what's the legal definition?
You don't know the legal definition.
No, what's the legal definition?
The legal definition of hate speech is to incite violence against someone because of something like their race or their religion. How is pointing out a historical... One second, I haven't finished asking my question.
I know what you're going to say.
Don't let me finish asking my question. How is pointing out a blatant historical error in the Quran fitting to that definition?
Because I never said you're actually doing hate speech.
Did you not just say that?
I didn't say that. No.
Did you hear him say, why are you doing hate speech?
I said they're gonna hate that you're talking about it. I never said.
That's not what you said. You've changed what you've said.
They'll be able to watch it back. They'll be able to watch it back.
Everyone put the time sequence in so he can hear his own words.
Just rewind it back. Yeah, and listen to what I actually said.
Yeah,
and
we
then
heard
you'll understand what I said. I never said.
You've got witnesses. Did you hear him say that I was preaching hate speech?
Yeah.
So everyone's contradicting you again.
I said you were preaching hate speech.
That's what you said.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when you're talking about people's profits, they're gonna hate that. They're not gonna like that. So that's hate.
That's not hate speech.
That's hate.
That's not hate speech.
It might not be hate speech as a legal term, but that's hate speech.
It's not hate
because
speech.
at the end of the day,
So I'm not particularly fond of those sandals. They kind of offend me. Are you hate speeching against me with those sandals?
No, but that's a hate speech what you just said.
No, because
you're hating on my sandals.
Okay,
you're hating on my sandals.
Guys.
And now I'm upset that you're hating on my sandals. Why are you hating on my sandals?
Guys, the risk that is happening in our society, and it is a real risk that you all have to take seriously, is that hate speech is being used to shut down freedom of speech. It is being used to close down freedom of speech. And it is being used to delegitimize speech. It is a rhetoric that is taking away your freedoms. And also, it is being confused with subjective feelings. He might feel offended that I as a Christian criticise Islam, but not offended that Muslims are doing the same thing, though he probably has heard them doing that.
No, you're lying now. Now
He
you're
probably
lying.
has.
Now you're lying.
I'm saying
now
you
you're lying.
probably
Now
have.
you're lying.
I'm saying you
Because at the end of the
probably
day, you're
have.
just assuming.
I'm
You're
saying you
assuming
probably
that I'm
have.
taking sides.
I
But I
think
don't
you
take
are.
no sides.
I think you are.
I think you're all wrong.
Now, you didn't actually address this question.
I want to do one thing for you.
Yeah.
You're Muslim.
No.
Are you not Muslim?
Guys,
Who's Muslim here?
Okay, if you want to listen to these two talk, stay here. If you want to listen to me talk, I'm going to take a step over there.
Go on, Bob. See you later.
Follow me if you want to talk to me.
I was just going to ask him a question.
See you later, Bob. See you later, Bob.
Who here's a Muslim? You're a Muslim.
So, the guy, ladies and gentlemen, the Quran has historical errors within it. It says that there was a mosque in Jerusalem in the 7th century. That is a lie. It says that David had chainmail. That is a lie. These are errors in the Quran, a supposed book that is without error.
Why is it a lie?
I'll give you an okay, it's a fair question. Right. Maybe it is more accurate to say that it's an error. Do you believe the Quran has any errors in it? No. Right. Do you know, sir, when chainmail was invented? Do you know what chainmail is? Sorry? No. Chainmail is a form of armour. It's a form of armour created by linking rings of steel together. Okay? We know when it was invented. We know where it was invented. The earliest records of it go back to the Persians. They came hundreds of years after David. You know who David is in the Quran? Who is David? Thank you. Okay. When did David live? A long, long time. His exact dates are 1,000 years before Christ. The Persians came hundreds of years after David was born and died. The Quran says this: we bestowed grace aforetime on David. From ourselves, O ye mountains, sing back the praises of Allah with him, and ye birds also, and we made him the iron soft for him, commanding, listen to the next bit, make thou coats of mail balancing well rings of chain armour. Would you agree that is a description of chain mail? You would agree. So the Quran has said that something exists historically before all the evidence shows its existence. Thus, the Quran is in error. Can the Quran be in error? So if all the evidence contradicts the Quran,
he can tell you whatever he wants. We do not need the creation's written word.
okay, so the Muslim, and he's totally entitled to this position, says, I will believe by faith that the Quran is correct,
I do not believe by faith.
even if it contradicts the evidence. Now let me show you how he won't work to that principle. If I said to you, sir, that Islam started in Pakistan and not Arabia, how would you prove me wrong?
Show you the lineage of where the Prophet came from.
He would show me what?
And the history of the Prophet.
There you go. He would appeal to historical evidence. So, when I make a false claim about Islam, he would rightfully appeal to historical evidence to show that I was wrong. And he's correct to do so. But if I show a historical error in the Quran, rather than believe the historical evidence that contradicts the Quran, he says, I will believe the Quran against the evidence. That, sir, is cognitive disconnect. You apply one principle to deal with one thing and a different principle to deal with a different thing when their category is the same. They're both historical statements. Now, why is this important? It's important because Muslims make the claim that this Quran is without error. The Quran itself says, if this was from any other than Allah, disbelievers like me would find errors in the Quran. Lo and behold, I do. Lo and behold, by the standard of the Quran is false. Therefore, by the Quran's own standard, it is not true. And if something is not true, you don't need to believe in it. Why am I, as a Christian, criticizing the Quran? It is because many Muslims here in the park spend their entire day criticizing the Bible. And I think it's fair, if Muslims will criticize the Bible, I can criticize the Quran. But here's the difference. Here's the difference. We Christians do not make the same claims about our Bible that Muslims make about their Quran. Christians believe that our book appeared in history. Muslims believe the Quran is eternal. Christians believe our books were created. Muslims believe that the book was uncreated. Christians believe that our book was given to men. God inspired them. He elevated their mind, their reasoning, and their perception to know what was important to God in history and what God was doing. But they were writing man's words in the Bible, inspired by the Holy Spirit. Men's words. Men's words are fallible. Christians readily admit to and do not deny that there are difficult passages in the New Testament. Or the Old Testament. Shortly, sir, yes. Yes, certainly, shortly. However, we have a restricted understanding of what The Bible is in terms of its infallibility. Questions of doctrine and workings of righteousness, moral and doctrine teaching. By contrast, Muslims claim for this book that it does not make any errors at all. None, zero, nada, zip. Not in history, not in science, not in doctrine. So when the Quran is contradicted by all the historical evidence, you have a choice. You can either do as this gentleman did and say, I am a Muslim, I'll believe anyway what the Quran says despite the evidence, or you can follow where the evidence leads you, and the evidence leads you out of Islam and away from this Quran. Your reply, sir?
Okay, my reply. I just want to say one couple of things. Firstly, if you look around the world, the Quran is one.
No, it isn't.
There is not one single change from one from Mauritius, one from South Africa,
Factually wrong.
one from America. There is nothing wrong. Why? It's because it's written in Fusha, in the Arabiya. And in the Arabiya it is exactly the same. Forget translation. Forget translation. Let's see where Isa alayhi salam is from. Isa alayhi salam is Jesus. He's Jesus.
Isa is an unknown word. That is not the name of Jesus. Jesus' name was Yeshua. The Arab Christians translate the name of Jesus in their earliest Bibles to Yesu. Not Isa.
There is an illness of
Arabic.
No,
They translate it. That's a fact. It's just a fact.
There is no different Quran. Inside the Bible, I want to ask you one question. Why is there one version for Roman Catholics and a different version for other people? There are so many different versions of Bibles out there. There are groups of people who sit and rewrite the Bible and edit the Bible. That has never happened from the day the Bible
Can I reply?
was revealed to right now.
Okay, let me reply.
And it never will be.
Let me reply. So the question is, why do Catholics and Protestants have different Bibles? The answer is a simple one, really simple. They don't agree about which book should be in the Bible. Protestants and Catholics have a disagreement about which book should be in the Bible. Let me reply. In exactly the same way that Muslims disagree about which hadiths to believe. The Sunni and the Shia use different hadiths.
No, Quran one.
No. One second, I'm still replying to him. Don't be rude. Raoul, stop feeding. Raoul, bro, discipline. So, the brother made another point. He said every Quran in the world was the same, and he repeated the same thing. That is factually not true. It's factually not true. If you compare the Hafs Quran, to the Wash Quran, they're different. They're different in their diacritical marks, and their diacritical marks affect the consonants, because at least 22 of 28 Arabic letters cannot be distinguished except by the diacritical marks. But one second, I have not finished. Last point. So, it gets worse. Dr. Daniel Brubaker has recently, this very week, released a doctorate study. Brother, have the courtesy to listen to an answer. Just bad manners. Just bad manners. Just bad manners. So, Dr. Daniel Brubaker has recently released a study of the oldest manuscripts of the Quran. These are the Topkapi, the Samarkand, the Sinai, the Husseini manuscript in Egypt, the Petropolitan manuscript in Paris, and the Millet manuscript in the British Library. These are recognised as the oldest copies of the Quran, and he has noted that they have textual variants to the 1924 edition of the Quran. The brother is simply wrong in every way in saying that every Quran is the same. It's just not true.
What about the Bible? Once I complete the Bible, let me first argue, let me go across about the differences. There's halves, there's different words, there's different types of dialects. When you go to the north of England, somebody might say to you glass. When you come to the south of England, somebody might say to you glass. Does that make it different? No, it's just a matter of dialect, it's just a matter of accent. If you're coming from north, it's different to south. So when you're actually having people reading the Quran, it's in different variants, it's due to the accents that they have come with. But the meaning does not change. So the words are the same.
The Roman Catholic Bible. The Roman Catholic Bible.
Can I reply? Yes. Let me reply to this brother. Is it my turn to reply? I don't want to interrupt you. Okay. So his argument was that these textual variants...
Not textual variants.
Allow me
saying,
to... Sir, stop
sir.
Interrupting.
Sir, I did not say that.
Yeah,
sir,
you interrupted.
I am not interrupting because I said it's to do with linguistics.
If you would actually let me finish, allow me to reply without interruption. So, if you can constrain yourselves and listen to the full sentence,
yes,
you will realise that you were not mischaracterised. But you did not restrict yourself. And so you did not hear what I had to say.
Sorry about that.
So now discipline your heart. Now, his argument is that these textual variants are nothing but dialect accent, like glass and gloss. Now, firstly, that is not what a dialectical difference is. A dialectical difference is something akin to saying tunnel and gentle. That's a dialectical difference. He's talking about accents, not dialectical differences.
Is the meaning the same?
Don't interrupt.
Is the meaning the same?
Don't interrupt. However, the kind of textual variance we are talking about is the difference between saying tree and trees. Now tell me, sir, is a plural the same as a singular? No. So if we have in these textual variants the same word, but one is singular and another plural, are they the same? No.
But
thank you.
Linguistically, let me tell you guys linguistically. Yes, in the Quran, our Lord, Rabbana, our Lord says, we are this, we are that. It's linguistically respectful. When you speak to someone, when I speak to an elder, I will address him in my language in plurality. Why will I address him in plurality? Because it's respectful. It's respectful. I will not call an elder from anything other than respect. Now in the languages there are different ways of respecting people. In the language of Arabiya, in the language of Fusha, the way to respect somebody is to call them into the plurality. Now the other thing I want to say is, for clearly we have been told, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ رَبِّي وَرَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُوهُ هَذَا صِرَاطُ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. And Isa alayhi salam, Jesus as you call him, said, peace upon him, said, and indeed Allah is my Lord and your Lord, so worship him. And inside the Bible, the original Bible, the untouched Bibles that you can tell.
I want to see on camera.
That actually go on. I clearly tell you that when Jesus said, he did not say, worship me, I am the Lord. He said, I will worship the Lord. Ayah worship the Lord.
Can I
He
reply?
went down onto his knees and face.
Can I reply?
As we do 5 times a day.
Can I reply? Okay, so notice he wants to get off the topic of the textual variants. He wants to change the topic now about, oh, we Muslims are more like Jesus than you are. Despite the fact that Jesus prayed towards Jerusalem and kept the Sabbath and the Muslims don't. Anyway, that aside, let's get back to the topic. He has admitted that a plural is not the same as a singular. And there are examples between the Hafs and the Wash Quran where the same word appears in the Hafs as a singular and then appears in the Wash as a plural. Thus, they are not the same. Thus, my original statement is true, and his original statement that they are all the same and there is only one Quran is false. But here's another example for you. Is the word owner the same as the word king? No. Well, there's a passage in the Quran where the Hafs says king and the what? Yes, he knows it.
Of course.
He knows it. So, is every owner a king and is every king an owner? Yes, they are.
In your linguistically, no. What you got to realize when he's speaking about God, he is the King of Kings. If you speak about the owner, he is the owner of all owners.
But they're not the
He's
same
above
thing.
everything.
But they're not the same thing.
When you are translating it into English, into any other language, it loses the essence.
No, we're not talking about translation. We're talking about the Arabic. One Arabic says owner and another Arabic says king. That is a textual variant. That is a textual variant. They are not the same thing.
Variant. That is the accent.
What is
variant.
the academic?
That is the accent variant.
It is not. Wait, no, don't let him get away, brother. He's just said, listen to this. Listen to this. He has just said that the word owner and the word king is an accent. They're not accent differences. That's a different word. One is owner and one is king. They are not the same word. And every academic will tell you that that is a textual variant. That is the very definition of a textual variant. Do you know what a textual variant is? What is a textual variant?
When they differ.
What differs? What differs? What?
The pronunciation.
Let me give a more accurate definition of a textual variant. A textual variant is when you have multiple manuscripts containing the same text, in this example the Quran, and those manuscripts have different words or letters. That is the academic definition of a textual variant. If you have two texts, two manuscripts that are taught that have different words, you cannot say they are the same. That is a lie. And you certainly can't say that the word owner and the word king are the same word. And you're aware of them.
For him, he is owner of the two worlds. What are the two worlds? Rabbul Alameen. He is owner of this world and the world in the hereafter, where there will be hell and there will be heaven, where we will be questioned. He is also the king of these two worlds. So in contextual wise, if you say, okay, there's a variance, the meaning is not different.
So
if you want to, okay, I'll agree to you. You saying in
I think the way you have nursed that B, by the way, is a wonderful example of gentleness. I just want to applaud you. Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to applaud. It's a wonderful example.
You have to. But what we're going to is, we have the Quran. We have what it says inside of it. Yes, there are words, there are differences, and yes, I agree to what you're saying. Owner and king is totally different.
Thank you.
I totally agree to that. But what we are trying to get to is not just the words, but to reflect upon what it's talking about. If he is the owner, Maliki Yawmiddin, he is the owner of the religion, he is the king of the religion. At the same time, for Allah, it does not matter because he is for everything. God is in charge of everything. He created everything. Whether he is owner of all the creations or whether he's owner, king of all the creations.
May I reply? So, do you remember at the very beginning of our discussion on the text of the Quran that you said that there is one Quran and they are all the same?
Yes.
Now that we've talked about it some more, are you still saying
Yes.
that all the Qurans are the same?
Yes.
Right. There you go. Cognitive dissonance.
It's not cognitive dissonance.
You have accepted
because you in the Quran.
You have accepted a textual variant exists, but then you're saying
in the Quran it is written the same. But
not.
it's the person with his different accent that says it differently. It is written the same.
So it's not the same word.
So no.
Is Maliki the same as Maliki?
Maliki, but the thing is, you got to go back to the history of how the people spoke at that time.
It's a straight question. Is Maliki the same as Maliki?
Maliki? Maliki is the same as Maliki.
I'm not Arab, it's not my first language, so obviously you'll have to make allowances for the mispronunciation.
Malik
Are they the
and Malik.
same word?
Ma and ma.
Are they the same word?
The two different words?
Two different words.
As you say from written, but in written it's not.
Right. What you
It's
now...
the accent.
No.
No,
That's not an accent.
Why can't we? It is the accent.
An accent.
Why can't we talk about northerners and southerners? Why do southerners go and say glass, last, pass?
Right.
Why do northerners go and say the same word, pass?
Allow me to address that point. Because you are profoundly confusing the question of accents with textual variants. Let me explain why. You are using the let me explain why. You are using the example of glass and gloss to try and explain the way that one version of the Quran says king and another version of the Quran says owner. That is not an equivalent comparison. An equivalent comparison, would be an example I'll use from the Bible, where we have textual variants and we readily talk about them, where one says, referring to Jesus, he, and another one says, Jesus. Those are two different words. They are a textual variant.
One's
right?
just a pronoun saying the
Now,
same thing.
Yeah, pronoun and a name are not the same thing, even if they're referring to the same person. That is the kind of example that we've got when we talk about king and owner. And now we Christians are honest, because our religion is not built on the book emerges from our religion, that we don't have a problem with these textual variants. It doesn't matter a jot to me as a Christian. One second, bro. It doesn't matter a jot to me as a Christian whether the Bible says he or Jesus. They're talking about that. They're talking about it. And we Christians have never, ever, ever claimed that the Bible has been perfectly preserved and there is only one Quran in existence. But you have, and the evidence contradicts you, because we can see clearly there are multiple Qurans, and not just in terms of the Hafs and the Wash, but when you compare the ancient Qurans to the 1924 edition, there are corrections to the ancient text.
I will agree with you, there are corrections. There are corrections in the Quran. But what I am trying to tell you, when the Arabs of the old, they actually wrote the Quran, if you look at the letters, they have dots.
Yes.
They have like, in the olden times, there were no dots.
Correct.
Like for example, the letter Sh, it's a circle with 3 dots right now.
Yeah.
And the letter S is just the same as the Sh, but without the 3 dots. In the olden times, there were no dots. This is an innovation of the newer times for people to distinguish between the letters.
Thank you.
What time coming?
Yes.
What time?
Actual words. Actual
There are
in
no
the
words.
in the Husseini manuscript. Honestly, bro.
Husseini.
She's correct. She's
do not-
correct. So, well done, sister. Absolutely.
I
right.
agree with you. Yes, you say a Husseini manuscript. You say the Shia.
Yeah.
Shia never existed in the time of the
They
Prophet.
added the name Allah
Shia never
12
existed.
times to the Husseini manuscript.
Ilahim in Hebrew.
Can I just point out
In Hebrew,
something?
you say Ilahim.
Brother, can I just point out something? The manuscripts that were investigated by Dr. Daniel Brubaker are your earliest manuscripts. You don't have earlier ones to look at. Okay? They are your earliest. And they were written before the implementation of the diacritical marks. So they were written before vowelization of the text. Now, they demonstrate the fact that those texts had erasures. Do you know what an erasure is in textual criticism? An erasure is when a word is there and then someone comes along and scrapes it away. Okay? So there's examples where someone has come and written a word and then someone later has come and removed a word. There's example of tapeovers. Do you know what a tapeover is?
Someone's written over something else?
No. Well, yes, sometimes. So a tapeover is when you have a series of words that you want to get out. You want to splot it out. It's the ancient equivalent of Tipex. You put manuscript over the top of it, so it's just blank, and it blots it out. Now sometimes those erasures are written over, which means that at some point in Islamic history somebody thought that the Quran should include some words that then other Muslims thought, no, those words shouldn't be there. And they corrected the text.
Shall I tell you why I think it's still not true?
Go on.
Because from the starting, even if there's written and everything like that, people at the starting were not writing. They would pass it on by the word of
mouth.
Yes. Totally agree?
So I'll come to that.
Okay. And yeah, the Chinese whisper and all that comes along. But why is it that the Quran that is found in Iceland, forget the written part, but what he says is the same as the one found?
This is a claim that can never be done. Let me
there
explain.
Are people who, there are so many people.
This is a myth.
Okay, there are so many people who have.
They can never prove this claim.
What can you?
This claim can. I'm going to come, bro. You're stealing my thunder. Stop stealing my thunder. You're stealing my thunder, bro. I understand the claim. It's a recitation and it's remembered, right? But you've got to understand, objectively, this claim can never be tested, right? The only way that you could prove that every recitation is the same is if you stuck every reciter in a room or recorded every reciter and then did a scientific analysis to see that all the recitations were the same.
I have been to South Africa, I've recited, it's the same as they've recited.
Doesn't make any difference. It is not proof.
I totally agree from the scientific point of view.
It is not proof. It is a claim, but it cannot be verified.
I totally agree with you on that point, that scientific proof, it cannot be proven.
Right, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Because Adnan's bursting to break into this conversation. So let me ask you this question. Yeah? In the earliest stage of Islam, why did the Quran become codified? What prompted the codification of the Quran into a manuscript text?
So for people who were able to write at that time, for people to send it?
No, that's not true. According to your own hadiths, the reason why Uthman was prompted by his generals, to codify the text of the Quran was because Muslims were fighting one another about its recitation. In other words, the idea of simply reciting the Quran failed. The first Muslims couldn't agree, and that prompted the earliest Muslims to have it codified into a text. Now, 1 second. I'm taking it you're a Muslim. You tried to learn the recitation of the Quran, of course. When you, as a student, tried to learn the recitation of the Quran, do you just listen and repeat, or do you listen, read and repeat?
I listen, read and repeat.
Exactly. And do you think that human beings in the past were any different?
No, but I've also learned stuff by just listening and repeating.
Yeah, but in terms of the Quranic recitation, let's be clear. It is impossible for a human being simply to learn through recitation. And it is demonstrated by the fact that that very effort that the Muslims genuinely tried to do in the first century failed. And that's why you had to have a text to help people recite the Quran. But here's the problem. I don't know if you know the hadiths. One of the hadiths state that Uthman said to Zayd bin Thabit, who was the secretary of Muhammad, that if you are in dispute about how something should be written, write it in the dialect of the Quraysh. Yeah? Now, how scripturally do you demonstrate dialects in Arabic script?
But different ways. I understand where you're coming from.
No. I want you to answer this question. Because if you don't, I'll answer it for you.
Don't answer it.
Scripturally, how do you demonstrate different dialects in the script of Arabic?
By the way it's written?
Yes, but what specifically? What helps you to pinpoint this dialect and not dialect?
The connotations on it, different.
The
dialects,
dots,
yes.
right. At the time of Uthman, Kufic Arabic did not have dots. So why does the hadith talk about something that didn't exist at the time of Muhammad? I'll tell you why. It's because the hadith wasn't created at the time of Muhammad. It was created after the time of Muhammad, and it was created by Muslims who were aware of diacritical marks because they had been put into the text. And those Muslims did not know that at the time of Muhammad there were no diacritical marks. And so they put into the words of Uthman and his generals words that they never uttered. And these hadiths are called Sahih. Your religion is based upon a myth. Your book is full of errors. Your Quran has been changed. It is time to find a better God, sir.
And that God is
The Christian faith.
Christian
Yahweh,
faith.
the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob.
the God of Abraham, the God
Isaac.
of Jacob, the God of Moses,
Yes,
the
that
God
God.
of David,
That God. The God of John the Baptist. The God of Jesus Christ. The God of all the prophets.
the God
The
of
God
all
of
the
God's
prophets
Messiah.
is also the God of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Well, all the evidence would seem to suggest otherwise, and we've just talked about that at great length. Anyway,
Thank you
so
very
you're a
much,
very
sir.
pleasant
It's
man.
nice, yeah, thank
You
you
have a
very
lovely day. I really encourage you to think about what you've heard today.
Thank you, Ali.
Okay? And then if you want to come back and next time we talk, if you want to spend an hour talking about Christianity, I'll gladly do
I
that
just
with
want
you.
to last, finally just go away by saying, as you said in the Quran, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ رَبُّكُمْ وَرَبِّي فَاعْبُدُوا هَذَا صِرَاطُ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. And Isa alayhi salam never ever called himself God, never once.
I can show you that in a minute.
Well, plenty of
But it's
it. Now
not a
you're referring to your
I know
book.
it all converts to accept this religion
I
to this
am
place, to
gonna
that bit,
go.
but that's what I'm going to say at the end.
I'll just reply to that point, and then I'm going to go.
Okay.
Okay? In the Quran, Allah has 99 names, doesn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? 99
Yeah,
names.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Attribution
Right?
to him, yeah.
Yeah. And these are his names, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one
We
of
can
those
call him by,
one of
yeah.
those 99 names is that Allah is the first and the last, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's two names of Allah. I'm going to show you where Jesus calls himself the first and the last. Because you just said a lie. Not because you're lying, but
You're
because
going
you
to
have
show
been
it
lied
to
to.
me in English.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Translation, there's an illness of translation. Not one language can be translated.
Bro, before you make up
No.
excuses, at least listen to the
I'm going
evidence.
to listen, and I'm going to, before you read this,
Bro,
I know, can I just say
No,
one
no,
thing?
one second. You just said that Jesus never called himself God. That's what you said. I am going to show you, not only does he call himself God, but he calls himself your God by using the names your God uses. And the real question is not whether Jesus calls himself God. The real question is, why does, he's not even listening, why does Allah steal the divine names of Jesus? Listen to this. This is Jesus speaking. I, Jesus, have sent my angel. He's the one speaking. This is what he says before that. Behold, I am coming quickly. My reward is with me to render every man according to what he has done. I am the Alpha, the Omega, the first and the last. That is Al-Awwal and Al-Akhir. Those are the names of Allah that appear in the Quran. So now let me ask you one quick question. Why does Muhammad take the divine names of Jesus and attribute them to Allah?
Then let me answer that with your question. Why did Jesus need to be born?
So,
Why did he have to go through the dirt and the dust and
That's
the
changing the
decay?
subject.
Changing the
It's
subject.
It's not changing the subject.
Changing the
It's
subject.
not changing.
Always they returning the question by the question.
okay, bro, I said I would show you where
Here,
Jesus called
answer.
himself God. I've done that. It is up to you now whether you accept what you saw in the Bible or you accept the lies that Zakir Naik, Ahmadidat,
all you people standing
Hashim,
here,
and all these other
bear
people
witness,
are
I
saying
say,
to you in the
Ashhadu an
masjid.
la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I will never, ever in my life testify to
May
anything
I ask you what
but that.
shahada means in Arabic? By Arabic, can you translate?
Okay, let's do a wrap up for those that want to hear
What
the wrap up.
shahada means?
Shahada,
Yeah.
to be witness.
To
be
witness.
fit, yeah.
How you witness?
base position
Of course, that's why.
Okay. You what? Hey, brother. One day you're going to say that and it'll be true. So, what we've seen is this. Muslims make claims about their Quran that open the Quran to investigation and falsification. If you say that your text is not in error in any way, and then people find errors in your text, then that is good grounds to dismiss your texts. A claim that we do not make in a similar fashion to our own. The Quran gets its history wrong. It says that a mosque exists where a mosque doesn't exist. It says that a mosque was built at a time when no mosque was built, according to the hadith. It says that chainmail was created by a man who could not possibly invented chainmail. Muslims claim that their Quran has never been changed. All the evidence contradicts that. Comparisons between the halves and the wash, owner and king. Comparisons of the ancient manuscripts, the Samarkand, the Topkapi, the Petropolitan, the Mial, to the 1924 version, demonstrate changes to the text. At every point where Muslims make a claim about their Quran, that claim collapses in the face of evidence. The claim, the central claim of Christianity is that Christ rose from the dead. And that claim has been challenged for over a millennia, and the evidence continues to mount up on our side, not against us. I invite you, if you're a Muslim, not to make a jump of faith, but to follow the evidence. The evidence contradicts your religion. Go with the evidence, leave Islam. Look again at the Christian faith, look again at the Christian claims and weigh them up. Not by what Muslims say about our claims in the masjid, not by what Zakir Naik says or Ahmadinejad, but by speaking to knowledgeable Christians and learning our faith from us. I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Have a lovely day. Christus Anestasin.
Crazy man. I tell you,
Come take over everything from your Benelli.
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
I'm not going to talk about.
Listen.
I'm not going to talk about Antifa as such, but I'll talk about what I talked about with you, which is that any organisation or any individual or government that uses violence as an articulation of their political desire, wish and want